Okay, I'm hungry. Grilled cheese time. Oh, what the hell? What are y'all doing hiding in there? Get out here. I gotta show you how to fix a cast iron griddle. So here we got a perfect example of every homestead cook's worst nightmare. This is a cast iron griddle I've had forever. Just hung up unused for a while. Like, a long while. Hasn't even been messed with since, honestly, since I was still married. And if you look, we're not going to get into who used to do the dishes around here, but they didn't wash it properly, and it got put away wet, and moisture got up under the seasoning. If I take this fork here, if you look, you see, shouldn't be able to just scrape that off like that. That's icky. So we're gonna have to strip this sucker down and reseason it, because flipping pancakes on a griddle is a lot easier than a skillet. Now, normally you'd start this process by building a fire, letting it burn down to a good hot bed of coals, and then just burying your cast iron in those coals to burn off your old season. However, I'm deliberately doing this without a fire, because if you live in an apartment complex or incorporated areas of certain cities, building a fire in your backyard isn't an option. Yes, there's a way around that if you have an oven that self-cleans, but not everybody has one. So, what we got going on is, I got this soaking in a sink full of hot water. Okay, as you can see, I've already started stripping part of it. I started out by squirting the whole thing down with dollar store Dawn dish soap. It's a great degreaser. And going over it with an SOS pad to make sure to get basically everything stuck off the top. After that, I started going at it with this little rig. It's just a drill with a wire brush attachment on it. You don't got to go that route. You can also just go at it with a regular good stiff wire brush like you'd use for welding, metalworking, that kind of thing. Only difference is it's going to take longer. If you get in close, you can see I'm already starting to get the old season and that big rust spot stripped off. And then, to rinse all the powdery stuff off, I got a pot of water boiling here on my stove that I just hit it with every now and then. I use the boiling water because it's hot enough that it evaporates off rather quickly, and I don't got to worry about making fresh rust while I'm working. Okay, so she's been stripped off of the old seasoning. You can still see some black spots on there, but the important thing at this point is nothing's trying to flake off. I've got it sitting over the back two burners on my stove right now, just heating it up so it can dry off. And we're about, once it's dry, I'm going to start putting a new season on it. Okay, I don't know if you can tell. Let me shut the light off. That's not enough light.
To the right size for this mix, so that.
Okay, we're back to as close to a factory finish as we're going to get on this thing. Okay, and totally cheated. Busted out the ankle grinder. Now, the way I'm doing this doesn't really have a lot of advantages over just burning it off. As a matter of fact, it's got some serious disadvantages. It's a lot more hands-on and honestly kind of time consuming, because right now this is all I'm getting done. But I'm not having to sit out in the cold tending a fire, and I can mess with this thing. It's not screaming hot, it just gets black shit all over my hands every time I touch it. So I'm going to take it back over to the sink and give it a wash before I show you the next step. So here's where we get a little high tech. This makes it a lot easier. We're at seasoning temperature, about 450, 500 degrees. At this point, all I'm doing is just spreading a thin layer of Crisco around on it. See, in some spots it's even moving around on its own. Not doing anything fancy. Just keeping her good and hot the whole time. And I'm going to keep it hot until that Crisco hardens. It's smoking, which is what you want to see. Gets a little stinky, but we're getting her done. I'm going to turn my heat down a little because you don't want to get too hot or you'll just burn your season off.
If you're baking and your dough's not stretching like this, you should be asking yourself why.
See, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's spots that are starting to look dry. That's where the Crisco is starting to set. So at this point, well, I can tell you right now, one of my back burners runs considerably hotter than the other. It's kind of irritating. But you can see that black spot, kind of dry looking, starting to form. That side's starting to, well, both sides are starting to season, but this side is quite a bit further than this side. I'm done adding Crisco, at least for now. And all I do is, this is awkward as hell, I'm candid. As one side starts to look a little dry, I just pull a little more of the melted stuff out of the drip pan, out of the drip trough there at the back, and drag it across where the burner is and kind of move it around and spread it out. I'm going to keep doing this until it looks like I'm starting to get somewhere. And then I'll shut it off and let it cool down. I'll probably at some point put it on the front burner so that I can do the middle. But I'll get the sides done first. So the cool thing about doing cast iron on the stovetop as opposed to the oven is you can really actually see what's going on and understand how the process works. Okay, if you look at this side, focus. Okay, if you look at this side, every spot that has started to get that nice shiny black finish on it that you see with a well-seasoned piece of cast iron, it's all between 460 and 550 degrees. You got about a 90-degree window to play with. Okay, the spots where it's still wet are a little on the cooler side, and of course, since I don't have a burner under it, the center of this griddle is only about 330 degrees, but that's okay. When we're done doing the sides, we'll just move it forward onto the high output burner in the front and get it taken care of. I've just about used up all of my trapped grease there in the trough at the back. This side is getting very close to being done, and this side is starting to catch up. Yeah, we're in that 460 to 500 degree butter zone on this side finally, so that's going to start going pretty quick. Alright, I finally got my temperature dialed into where I don't got to sit there and babysit it. So I'm going to take a minute and explain why the hell I'm cooking a griddle full of Crisco to you younger bush hippies that maybe ain't been around this kind of stuff. So cast iron cookware literally lasts forever. About the only way you could damage it to the point that it can't be used anymore is if you break it in half. So because of that, the durability, and it has amazing heat retention. Like, suppose you want to cook a steak, okay? You always go for the cast iron to get that nice seared crust on the outside, because while it takes longer to heat up, it's going to retain almost every drop of heat that comes out of your burner and give you that nice crusty outside on your steak or your chops that everybody absolutely freaking loves. Not only that, but cast iron gives you the advantages of residual cooking time. So if you got a lot of stuff going on and you've got a smaller stove like mine, you can actually kill your heat and have your burner back a few minutes before whatever is done in the cast iron frying pan is done cooking, because it's going to retain all of that heat and it's going to keep finished cooking on its own without you having to do anything to it. The only downside to cast iron over the newer lighter metals that are Teflon coated is when you buy it, if you just take it home and try to cook in it right away, everything is going to stick. You're going to have a big damn mess. What's happening over there on my stove right now, making the inside of my house look like a Cheech and Chong movie from all the freaking smoke, is I'm actually burning pretty much everything in that Crisco off in my kitchen and just leaving behind the carbon. Everything's made out of carbon, at least in this universe, okay? And when you get a piece of cast iron to just the right temperature and you put oil on it that's got a lot of carbon in it, what you wind up doing is you wind up forming a nice layer of that carbon on the porous surface of your cast iron. It's natural Teflon. You get it built up good enough, and you're always going to be able to cook whatever you want in that pan with just the teeniest little bit of oil, and nothing will ever stick. It's awesome. So, and the other cool thing about it too is if you know how to season a cast iron pan or pot or anything, that puts you in the territory where there's literally no difference between the expensive stuff and the cheap stuff, because even cheap cast iron is still gonna give you all the advantages. I mean, over the years I've bought stuff from pretty much every manufacturer that's available in the United States, and the only difference I've ever found between the expensive stuff, and by expensive stuff I mean Lodge, because that's the higher end and most common brand that you're going to just find on the shelf at your local store. Yes, there's fancier ones that you can get from those high dollar chef supplies and things like that, but most people are either going to buy Lodge or Ozark, whatever Walmart's deciding to call their store brand stuff that particular week. The only difference I've ever seen between the two is Ozark has a rougher finish on it, so it takes a little bit more to get it seasoned, but it still takes a good season and you wind up with a damn good pan. So I'm going to finish my coffee and then go see if that sucker's done yet. Okay, so you've got your new pan perfectly seasoned. You're done over there, and you decide to cook dinner in it. How do you clean it without undoing the God knows how many hours of hard work you just put into it? I'm going to show you. This is my trusty skillet. I've had it longer than KD has been alive. You get it seasoned right. Y'all are going to love this. If you hate doing dishes, it's worth it to learn how to season cast iron. Okay? And let's face it, nobody likes doing dishes. Alright. Screaming hot water. Sponge. There's a little bit of egg stuff left in there. Hot water. Sponge. Wipe it out. That's it. Give it a quick rinse. Dry it off on the stove top and it's ready to be put away. Never put your cast iron away wet. That's how you wind up with messes like we just got done straightening out on that griddle. Another one of the big advantages to properly seasoned cast iron over Teflon is you don't have to be picky about what you're using to stir or flip whatever you're cooking in it. You get that carbon layer built up right, it's rock hard and indestructible. Okay? Unlike Teflon, where if you stand too close to it with your pocket knife, the shit rips. And here we go. There's our finished product. Now, she's still not perfectly completely seasoned because the ultimate season on a cast iron anything takes years, decades, centuries. But it's at the point where you can cook on it and stuff's not going to stick to it. The way it works from here is I'm going to let that cool down to where I can handle it. I'm going to take it over to the sink and I'm going to gently wash it in just hot water like you just saw me do with my frying pan a little bit ago. And throw it back on the stove on a low heat just to get it nice and dry. Then, before I hang it up on my cast iron wall here, I'm going to spray it down with a little bit of Pam just so that it's got something between it and any moisture in the atmosphere. I live in a swamp on the backside of a mountain, so it gets pretty damp around here. So, and then what the other thing that'll do is the next time I take it out to use it, it'll already have that thin layer of oil on it. So when I start to heat up, that will cook on while I'm getting it heated up and getting ready to cook on it. And over time, it's just going to keep building up and building up and building up. And eventually it'll have that rock hard non-stick surface on it like my old 12-inch skillet does. So that's really all there is to it. And this stuff, it's all, granted, even though it's some of it's, you know, the cheap stuff, it's all so durable that I'll be handing this stuff down to Katie when I'm gone, and, you know, she'll probably pass it on to her kids. Good cast iron is a generational family heirloom, and it's totally worth having, just because you can always rely on it. Not to mention the fact that you don't need a stove to use it, but we're going to wait for nicer weather before I show you how to get away with that. Alright? So, that's it for now. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Yeah, so I got hungry. And I figured, screw it, it's still hot. Might as well.